To me, I'd rather grow organically that way, even if it means it's a slower process. Some people definitely have more followers than we do, but we also have a very, very engaged community. And I think that is what matters the most.
This is the Late Night Startup Show, where we sit down with local entrepreneurs, startups, and business owners to dive into their entrepreneurship journey, telling their stories to provide content for them and value to the aspiring. On this episode of the Late Night Startup Show, we were speaking with Randall Ray of the PuppyPals App. When Randall moved to Atlanta about 5 years ago, she adopted a dog and then realized that she wasn't clear on to where she could take that dog and where she couldn't. And even the places that said that she could bring her dog there, sometimes said that, you know what, you can't. So she created the PuppyPals App, an app to where you can download and get all the information you need on where you can bring your dog and where you can't. There's also partnerships in there where you can get discounts on certain dog services like dog sitting or dog walking or dog toys. There's tons of information on this app, all surrounding dogs in the Atlanta community. It's a great thing. If you have a dog and you live in Atlanta, you should download the app. But one of the most interesting things about our conversation wasn't necessarily about dogs, but about competition. You know, you want the biggest dog in the fight, but is that how in 2019, how we're marketing and growing our business? One thing that we talked about is when it comes to competition, not necessarily seeing them as competition or the enemy, but as friendly competition, because as you help your industry as a whole, well, then your business in itself is going to grow even while in the face of competition. We had a very interesting conversation. Some very good points were made, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. And before we get into it, we have to thank our sponsors, RCR Video Marketing Group, an Atlanta-based multifaceted video production company creating compelling content to fast forward your business, and Digits in Motion. If you need an app, speaking of apps, or a website, contact Rob with Digits in Motion today to get help with that process. Now let's get into the conversation that we had with Randall. Randall, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. You were just telling me this is your second podcast, so I'm honored to be the second podcast that you've come on. I love your app, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm a dog owner. I have 2 dogs myself, both pit bulls, both rescues. Well, one now is a foster dog. Mm-hmm. We've had him for like 5 months. And my wife is like, if he can be good for 20 days straight and not chew anything up or not get into anything, then we'll adopt him. And
that's awesome.
I think he's right at about the 18th day right now. So
fingers crossed.
fingers crossed. Everyone at the shelter is like, we hope your foster failures.
Right.
I felt it nothing.
Yeah.
But no, he's the cutest dog. But I want to dive into why you came up with the idea of your app, what your app is, and just tell us everything about it from the history when you came up with it and where it's at now.
Okay. Well, yeah. So first of all, thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here. So I moved to Atlanta around 5 years ago, and I adopted my dog, Shadow, there shortly thereafter. I got him at 5 weeks old. His mom was sick at birth, so they were weaned almost instantly. So that's why I got him so early. I rescued him from Rescue Me, Georgia. Okay. And I really explored the city with him. I didn't know many people in Atlanta. And so, people would always ask me how I was liking Atlanta so far. And I'd say, well, the dog parks are really nice, and I struggled with figuring out where I could and couldn't bring him. And, I used other sources that I found weren't very reliable. They would say they were dog friendly, and then I'd get there and then they'd be like, no, we're not dog friendly. And then Shadow kept growing. When I got him, they said he was going to be 30 to 35 pounds. And I was like, oh, that's the perfect size. Yeah. And now he's 90 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big dog.
He is a big boy. So the bigger he got, the harder it was too, because there's some places that great that they have the option, but they're like, oh, you can only bring your dog if they could fit in the shopping cart. I stopped being able to lift him at around 40 pounds. So that wasn't an option for me. So I just definitely had the need myself as a dog parent to figure out exactly where I could and couldn't bring him with me. And then at the time I was working for a retail store in town, Brookhaven, which is a pretty popular dog walking area. And we allowed dogs, but there was really no indication of that.
Gotcha.
So more often than not, I would see our type customer walking by with their dog, sort of like window shopping, and I'd run out and be like, oh, you could bring your dog in. And then they'd be so happy and we'd usually get a sale. And so it was just like great day for everybody, you know? And that's when I realized, like, not only do dog parents need to be able to know where they can bring their dog, but there's a really big benefit for businesses to be able to reach that dog owning community, you know, and let people know that they're dog friendly. So yeah, a couple months later, PuppyPals was born in March 2016. That's when I founded the app, and it shows dog friendly places around Atlanta. We have restaurants, primarily mostly restaurants, but then we've got a lot of stores that are sometimes surprisingly dog friendly. I think people don't necessarily think shopping in dogs unless you're going into a pet store, but there's actually a lot that are there. And then, of course, parks, doggy daycares, vets, you know, stuff like that, your usual pet services. So I started the company in March 2016, and the app launched in October of that year. So we just hit our 2-year a couple months ago.
Okay, so you developed the app fairly quickly then.
And
right?
I did not develop the app. I hired people to develop the app. Yeah, that is something I have to clarify with everybody, because don't ask me any of the technical questions about the behind the scenes of the app. I don't know. But yeah, pretty quick. I'm an instant gratification person. One thing I would actually advise people is do a little bit more research than I did. You know, I just kind of jumped right in, which I'm happy I did. No regrets.
Do you feel like you paid for that, like financially, a little bit, as far as jumping right in and not doing as much research? Or
not so much financially, but just, you know, getting an idea. I guess until I started the app, I didn't really dive into the dog community myself.
Gotcha.
And it was a learning experience as I got engulfed in that community, which the Atlanta dog community is absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's top 5 in the country.
Yeah,
right?
I think
cities.
so. Yeah. So, so I mean, it's an amazing community to be a part of. I just wasn't really a part of it, short from, you know, like I said, going to dog parks with my own dog and meeting a couple of people beforehand. So
Gotcha. So did it ever get super intimidating when you went in to design the app or to sit down with the developers and meet with the developers?
Not really. I went with a great local company. And that's really what I wanted, was people that I could sit across from a coffee shop with and, you know, do everything face to face and in person. So they made the process pretty simple.
Okay. Yeah, Ray and I have been developing an app for the past 2.5 years or so.
Really?
Yeah, and largely it's taken so long, largely because of me, because I'm the one that kind of came in halfway through and was like, actually, I have a new idea. And I completely changed the entire back end and the inner workings of the app and all that. But I wanted the same thing. Like, so many people were sending me emails that were not even in the country. I was like, no, I need to be able to sit down face to face and watch you touch the keyboard as there's just something about that. There's something extra that comes along with that makes me feel better about the process for some reason. But why do you think, do you think that some businesses, because you mentioned how beneficial it could be for businesses, do you think that some businesses that allow dogs don't necessarily want to advertise that they allow dogs?
Yes, absolutely. And we run into that all the time.
Why is that?
So, well, a couple of reasons, and let me backtrack a little bit. One thing we do before we add a business of any kind on the app, I mean, unless it's a veterinarian's office, that's a no-brainer that you can bring your dog there.
Of course.
But, you know, with restaurants and stores, we verify with each business that, number one, they allow all breeds and all sizes. And number two, for restaurants, that they're allowed on the patio and not just tied to the other side of the fence of the patio, which is fairly common. And so with checking with restaurants, because that's the problem that I ran into, you know, someone might say it was dog friendly, and then I'd get there and they're like, we're dog tolerable, you know, and to me, dog friendly and dog tolerable are two very different things.
Totally.
And I run into businesses a lot that say, you know, one I went to with Shadow once, a friend of mine had recommended it. And they were like, oh, you have to check them out. They're really dog friendly. I went on like a Tuesday night. There was nobody on the patio. Went in with Shadow. They were totally fine with it. They brought out a big thing of water. They were really sweet to him. They pet him. And then I'm like, do you guys want to be on my app? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, you know, it surprised me because they were so sweet and kind to him. But they were like, no, to be honest, like we don't mind dogs. But if this was a really busy Sunday, you know, brunch and the patio is full, that's just not something that we want to deal with. You know, we don't want to have to turn your dog away. But if we kind of get to that capacity, we will. And I think that's completely fair of a business, you know, to be able to make that decision. And the last thing we're trying to do is twist anybody's arm to make them be dog friendly. You know, we just want to let people know about the places that are super, super dog friendly and, you know, come one, come all, bring your pup. So,
So the episode before this, I was talking to a guy. He created an app for cars, like guys and girls that are all into cars and like the engines and the history of their cars and all that. But he created the app and went into the app kind of knowing that it wasn't going to be a stream of revenue necessarily.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a lot of app creation. You're creating a business that doesn't necessarily have a direct, this is the transaction.
Absolutely.
Like, this is the point. So I know you have a premium version of your app. So explain to me a little bit how you decided to make your app make money and make it a full-time job.
That is one of the, when I said do a little bit more research, that's, sort of the problem that I ran into. So when I first launched, we didn't even have the premium version.
Okay.
And we have ads on our free version now, and we didn't when we first launched. I just really wanted to get the word out there, free for people to use, free for businesses. And I will never not have a free version of the app because I don't ever want anybody, because I don't always want to pay $1.99 for an app, even if it's a one-time thing. Like that's hard for me to do. So I have to respect that other people, would be just as wary of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to just develop, the business database and the following, which is a slow but very steady growth process. And to your point, the app itself, isn't really the moneymaker. It's not going to be what generates a lot of revenue. But I sort of found throughout this process is that people came to rely on us not only for a place where they could go for places they could bring their dog. But then we also got, questions about, what products do you like? What this do you use? What that do you use? So we're getting ready to relaunch our website, which is a little bit under construction right now.
Okay.
And the app will always be just focused on, places you can go. I call it like the Yelp, but for dog friendly places, that probably won't change too much, but then it will link to the website where you can shop, our I call it PuppyPals certified products and services, where you can find your favorite dog photographer, or just different local brands, or it links to, Rover is a really great app for finding like dog walkers and dog sitters, and, just linking to stuff like that. And more often than not, there's affiliate programs that you can do with different companies and, sort of start generating revenue that way.
So you're kind of creating a hub of all things dog friendly.
Exactly.
And dog services.
Yes. I've said I never want to like take away from anybody else's existing business. I just want to let people know that it's out there, just be a one-stop shop for all things dog, so the longer we're in this business and the more we connect with different dog moms and dads out there, the more we learn like what their needs are. And then we just try to answer that.
Yeah. So how does your app differ from, or I guess your business even website differ from, I think like Bring Fido is like one of the bigger guys, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not on there that often. We kind of have our select places that we take our pups and just stick to them.
Right.
But maybe we're sticking to those places because we don't know
what else is out there.
To do.
Yeah. So Bring Fido is awesome, first of all. And obviously they're national. Right now we're just local to Atlanta. But Bring Fido is what I used when I first adopted Shadow. And that's actually where I found that those places that were listed on there weren't reliable. Yeah. And I don't actually know what their screening process is, so I'm not going to speak to it.
That's exactly why I don't get on there anymore.
Exactly.
I think it was one time I wanted to take our dog somewhere and it said they were allowed. And then when we got there, they were like, no, we don't allow dogs.
Yeah. Same thing happened to me in a couple of different places. And so that's what I think separates us, even from there's, local and national, blogs or Instagram pages or, whatever that sort of offer the same concept. But I've learned that they're not often checking. And, like the story I just told about the restaurant I went to at Shadow, we get tagged in places all the time at, certain restaurants that these dogs are going to and obviously having a great time and being treated really well. And then we reach out to them and they're just like, we don't want to advertise that we allow dogs.
They want you there for the burger. More
exactly. And I think that's completely fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood. But so what's your history in? Cause it sounds like you've kind of had this passion for dogs all along, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a passion for business or entrepreneurship. So let's go way back of like, where is your history?
Okay. So funny you say that. I mean, we did always have family dogs growing up. And I mean, I always loved dogs, but I was not nearly as obsessed until I got Shadow. And because he was just my first dog, you know, just me and him.
Yeah.
So way back, since I was 9 years old, if you asked me what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a divorce lawyer.
Okay.
So
at 9?
At 9. I mean, my parents got divorced, pretty cliche, you know?
Yeah, gotcha.
But so I went to law school, and that was my plan up until, you know, about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I graduated, and then I just sort of decided that it wasn't really what I wanted to do anymore, which was great timing to have put in all that time and effort, you know?
Yeah, and resources.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm so happy that I have my law degree under my belt. It certainly comes in handy in other aspects of life. But then I really just thought that the career world would be my oyster, and that, you know, I was young and had, you know, kind of done all these different things. I'd been in retail, part-time on and off throughout high school and college, and, you know, done some marketing and event planning. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to like do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And it actually ended up being really difficult for me to find a career path, because a lot of people saw my law degree as, you know, being unfocused or overqualified or overeducated, or, you know. So I struggled for quite some time and went back to retail, had planned on it just being part-time. It ended up being full-time, which was that store that I worked for, you know, that I said in my example earlier of, you know, you bring your dog in.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, when I discovered that, you know, the app was what I wanted to do and what I wanted to create. And I mean, you know, I just dove in, not really knowing. I mean, I do have some entrepreneurs in my family, and so I wasn't, you know, too terrified. But I do also still work full time. I'd love to be able to do PuppyPals full time one day.
Yeah.
And I definitely think we're going in that direction, but it'll take some time.
Yeah, but everyone has to admire the patience in that. I think most people make the mistake of jumping too soon before the ship is docked, right? When it goes into going in full time into their part-time startup.
Exactly.
And that's the whole essence of this show, is the late night startup show, is because most people are building their side hustle business between like 7 p.m. and 2 a.m. right?
Exactly.
And that's where the name of the show was born out of.
Exactly.
I remember working full-time and part-time and doing video production on the side and on the weekends, and then finally getting it to a point to where we could be full-time doing video production.
Yeah.
And it feels so good to be at that point.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. But even I find that being a real like entrepreneur, when you really have that itch, even when you make your side hustle full-time, as soon as that becomes full-time, you try to find a new side hustle.
Oh, that terrifies me. Don't even tell me that.
But it's crazy, because that's just, to me, that's the way that we're kind of naturally wired in a way, as being like thoroughbred, true entrepreneurs, is you gotta be at the bottom with something at some point in time, and
keep challenging yourself.
Feel the need to grow. Yeah. But I think there's something interesting to unpack in this, because you're working retail full time. You came up with the idea for the app because you saw this one situation happen, and then you just went into it. It sounds like you didn't look at any of the competition.
Nope.
Is there anyone out there like this? You just,
other than like I knew about Bring Fido, but that was about it. Yeah.
Which I think most dog owners know. That's probably the most popular site that pops up when you're searching, where can I bring my dog?
And they also have some really unique travel aspects on their website that I don't even know if that's something we have the bandwidth to dive into locally or when we expand. So, you know, like I said, I'm just about letting people know if they're doing something better, hey, go check out Bring Fido. You know, we're not doing this yet, but they're doing it.
They're doing it. Okay. That's good. Because it to me, that what that does internally for you is kind of rid yourself of the risk, or this kind of subconscious nervousness of well, there's already Bring Fido, they're bigger than me, or there's already this other app in Atlanta that exists that says where you can bring your dogs. Did any of that ever cross your mind, or how did you get to the mindset of just saying, this is what I want to do. I'm going to start it. Don't care if there's anything else out there like it.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is there's Uber and there's Lyft and there's Pepsi and Coke and McDonald's and Burger King. And there's room for 2, if not 3, if not 4, you know? I mean, for all I know, there are other people, you know, doing this type of thing locally in other cities.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I want to partner with them. There's a really great website called Dogs of Atlanta here in Atlanta that I connected with. We had the same concept. I had an app. She had a website.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't want to be her. Yeah, we're always going to compete a little bit, but I'm like, we've got the same goal. We've got the same idea, you know, let's work together. And so her and I became pretty good friends and helped each other out where we could. And she had this really amazing event calendar on her website. And I wasn't really, we'd post about events we were going to or knew about on our Instagram feed, but I wasn't there yet. And I'm actually still not there yet, although that is a goal of ours to have here in the next couple months on our website. So, you know, we ended up having this great friendship, great partnership. And then she unfortunately just personal and her career stuff had to, couldn't do Dogs of Atlanta anymore.
Gotcha.
And she referred her entire following over to us.
Wow.
So it's always great to be friendly with your competition. Cause you never know what's going to happen. Or if I, had to dissolve PuppyPals one day, you know, I don't want to just abandon our followers and our users in our database. I want to be able to refer them to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
that's a very good point. It's like if you help the industry that you're in as a whole, then everyone's going to win out, even the end consumer, right? You don't have to see everyone as even though you are competing.
Right. You could be healthy competition.
You can be healthy
friendly competition. Yeah.
And know that if you guys are competing in a healthy manner, then that's going to help the industry as a whole, which then in turn helps everyone.
Right. And especially in the dog world, it's like we're all just dog parents obsessed with our dog, you know, trying to make the dog world a better place. So it's like that it doesn't have to be anything other than just, you know, friendly dog lovers getting together. Yeah.
So how much marketing are you doing right now as far as like social media ads and campaigns and stuff like that? Or is it just growing organically?
For the most part, organically. I've definitely tried different things. You know, just in starting out, I, you know, did the Instagram ads, Facebook ads. It's, you know, it's hard because I think I did do that when I only had the free app. Maybe doing it again with the premium app, I could maybe see a little bit more ROI that I was just never able to quantify.
Gotcha.
But even in terms of, you know, follower growth, I do believe that you have to like really stick with something like that in order to see a long-term, you know, investment. And I didn't really stick with it. It was just things, you know, that I was trying out. But really the best thing is just our community getting to know about us and believe in us and share the news about us. For example, there's a really awesome doggy daycare called Puppy Haven. They have 3 locations in Roswell, Chastain, and Brookhaven.
Okay.
And Shadow goes to the Chastain one, and then the Brookhaven one has this awesome dog party, and this is like the 4th year that they're doing it. And we're partnering with them to help them get, you know, some other vendors and dog businesses there. And they just, in the last week, posted on all 3 of their social media accounts about us. Nice. We hadn't asked them to, you know, it's like I had just kind of been building that relationship with them for a while. And then they just did at the same time, bam, 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 all 3 accounts. And I mean, I think we grew by like 100 followers, which was a really big deal for us, you know? Yeah. So to me, I'd rather grow organically that way, even if it means it's a slower process. Some people definitely have more followers than we do, but we also have a very, very engaged community. And I think that is what matters the most. Yeah.
Well, that's an important point to make because you don't have to use, you know, the dollars or any income that you have coming in to market in today's time. You can just reach out and build a relationship, which I kind of want to go back to that because it sounds like all these people that are kind of shouting you out and giving you this organic growth, you're not going to them directly and saying, hey, can you guys shout us out?
Right.
Can you give us, you know, this and that tag or this, can you link to our website in this post? You're just saying, hey, we exist.
Exactly.
Nice to meet you.
Exactly.
So why... Is that on purpose or is that just who you are as an individual? Because it sounds like you're not really asking anything.
A little bit of both. I will say for entrepreneurs, at least for me, it's very hard to ask for things for your own business is something that I've found. Like, I'm a pretty good salesperson, but it's hard to sell yourself in a way, you know? And I've actually, when I've told people about the app sometimes before, whether I'm passing, you know, a dog owner on the street or at the dog park and like want to tell people, saying like, I started this business, you know, I, it sounds kind of pushy.
Yeah.
So sometimes I say, oh, sorry to interrupt you, but I have to tell you about this thing that my friend just started.
Gotcha.
And I'm a third person.
Yeah.
And that's just easier for me personally. And also with starting a business, I recommend to entrepreneurs to create, you know, your basic generic email, your info ad or your, you know, whatever. Because if you have that email account that's not linked to your name, you could be your own marketing person. You could be your own PR person. You could be, you know, all of these different people, even if it's really just you. And I've actually done that. I've reached out to, you know, some magazines from our info at like, hey, I'm the PR and marketing, you know, manager for PuppyPals. We think that we'd be a really great feature for your magazine, you know, and it's just easier for me to do it from a third person and not coming from my email address saying, hey, I started this business, check out what I did. So that would be my advice. And so, so in that, I'm not often asking people to promote for us. You know, it's, I hope you like what we do and what we have. And, you know, I hope you want to share it. And I just think that that's more organic.
Yeah. I feel like someone could hear you say that though and be like, well, you're kind of deceiving people or something.
I could see that. For me, I'm not trying to deceive anybody. It's for my personal comfort level. And because I did start it as a one man, you know, business, one woman business. So, and now we actually do have a social media and marketing person and, you know, some other people that are awesome and help out. And
well, no, I kind of respect it because it's like you're running it as if you have those people because you eventually want to hire those people to do it anyway. And being a one-man band entrepreneur, you're going to wear those hats anyway.
Exactly.
So you might as well do them in a way or wear them in a way that makes sense for you to get the most out of having to wear the hat. That's cool. That's really unique that I would have never thought of that. Like even emailing people to be on the show, like emailing them from more of a third party type
And then there's also times when there's a lot more value coming when you're reaching out to somebody and it's coming from you as the founder or the business owner, you know, so you have to be able to differentiate that too, you know. You know, right now we're asking for donations, you know, we just did a basket for auction and then we're getting donations for prizes for a rescue dog Olympics event that's coming up in March. And for me, like I would never send that out from a generic info at like mass email. You know, I'm reaching out to those people that I've spoken with at the businesses, like, you know, hey Jen, how are you doing? You know, would you guys be able to donate this gift card? That I would never do from.
Very intentional. With how you approach each message.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. Well, it sounds like your app and your business and website is doing a lot. I mean, you have a lot of partnerships. You're in the community. People are starting to know you. Do you ever get too hard on yourself as far as saying, why isn't it full time yet? Why isn't it making X amount of dollars yet?
Yeah, it can be discouraging and hard when, you know, I'm funding it mostly myself. And, you know, I just want to get to the point where it's at least sustaining itself a little bit and not always coming out of my pocket. But for me, really, you know, those times that it is tough and it is discouraging. Two things. Number one, I do a lot of networking.
Okay.
I do it for fun and I used to do it a lot more, but now that I work full time and have Puppy Pals, you know, I only get to it when I can. But what I love about networking, and I know it's not for everybody, but there isn't one time when I don't go to a networking event and tell one person about the app and they just don't think that it's the greatest thing ever. And they're so relieved and so grateful to have heard about it. Yeah. And that is really awesome motivation and keeps me going. And then to tie into that, you know, all of the followers that we do have, you know, a lot of them have turned into friends. Like I end up meeting, you know, the dog mom behind the dog account at different events. And it's like, I hug them. Like, I'm so like, oh, you know, you're Simba's mom, you're so-and-so, you know, like I'm so excited to finally get to know them. And I really appreciate their support in a way that, you know, I never want to let them down. You know, like I said, even if one day I couldn't do it anymore, I would hope to be able to find a really awesome group to refer them to, or something like that. So
yeah. Yeah, that's good because you're really looking at your entire business from like a true giving back mentality. And even when the days do get hard where you want it to be making money or sustaining itself, it sounds like you really keep in mind your end goal, and that's just to take care of the end user, which is just the dog parents and the dog moms and all that. Yeah. So what's your favorite dog park in Atlanta?
That's tough. I mean, Fetch is obviously up there because Dog Park and Bar, who can beat that? But
and Steven's awesome.
He is, yeah. But Brook Run in Dunwoody is pretty close to me, and I like that one because they have a hose. And Shadow is one of those run straight for that puddle of mud and just roll around in it type of dogs. And I don't mind as long as I can hose them off, because right now we're in an apartment and I can't get them inside and in the bathtub, and that's just a really bad day for both of us. So I love them because I just keep dog shampoo in my car so he can get as muddy as he wants, and I just wash them off before we leave.
And what's it called again?
Brook Run Dog Park in Dunwoody. And then Brookhaven just fenced in their park. And it's awesome. I think it's one of the biggest dog parks that Atlanta has. One thing to note, though, is that they did include the creek in the fenced in part, which Shadow also runs straight to the creek every time. So if you have a dog like that, just become prepared.
Gotcha. My wife and I, we live in 04th Ward right off of Freedom Parkway. So we're always going to Freedom Parkway, which, it's not like the best dog park, but
I know, I love it.
We can walk there within like 4 minutes and just let them off the leash, let them run around.
And sometimes Fetch can get kind of busy. The last couple of times I've actually tried to go, parking was just insane. And so I just went to Freedom Parkway instead. Yeah.
I think he's about to break ground on one in Nashville.
I heard that.
I want to say, yeah. So good for him. That's good. Definitely. Expanding quickly. What's been your biggest struggle so far, as whether it's you personally as an entrepreneur, not necessarily the app per se, even though they're related, obviously, or just with the app and like building it out?
Probably overall is all of the things I want to do and just having the time the bandwidth to actually do it. I mean, I have so many ideas and goals and, just things like, oh, we could do that. And I really would, and I want to add that and be able to offer this. And, it's just having the time to do it all. And then, any little change to the app does, you have to pay the developers and, stuff like that. And so it's, just wanting to do it all and not being able to do it all.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all have tons of ideas, right? Especially entrepreneurs. How are you weeding through those ideas and like deciding which ones to actually act on or try to pursue, and which ones are you saying, okay, that's a bad idea?
I write them all down. Okay. One, to keep track, to not forget that, oh yeah, I had that idea. And two, then to kind of be like, okay, this is something I can easily do and knock off, and, that'll add value, and, kind of almost rank them, like 1 through 4. Rank them by the value they can add and then the time and cost commitment, and kind of put it on like a sliding scale to be like, okay, high value, high cost, low value, low cost, and kind of just decide what to move forward with.
Are you doing this like every day then?
No, not every day, but like I've got a list on my phone and a list on a piece of paper, and, I just kind of periodically. Because
I do that with like my to-do list.
Right.
I'll have a notebook and I'll just write down everything that I think that I need to do for the next day. And then I'll go back and like cross out what isn't super important. Or I'll like put a note beside it that if I get to this, great, but if I don't, whatever. But then once I decide on like the priority list, I'll go back and number those in priority and what needs to be done, and then like draw blocks around my day. But I don't really do that with my ideas. And I wonder if it's because if I do write down all of my ideas, I probably would need a hell of a lot of notebooks.
And then you start to have even more as you're writing them down.
Well, yeah, exactly. I feel like my anxiety would go through the roof. Right. Like I would be like, oh my God, I can't get to all of this. How do I do all this?
Well, it also helps me to, reach out to our team members and be like, hey, I've sort of been thinking about this. Is this anything that you might want to try and might want to, dive into a little bit?
Get that feedback. Okay. Gotcha. So you have the app, and I know you have partnerships offering like discount codes and stuff like that. How do you secure those type of partnerships and deals, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. A lot of it is just, getting to know the other companies that are local. Mint Creative Company is an awesome pet photography and pet branding business that we work very closely with. And, that was just honestly her and I meeting for coffee, and it turned into a true friendship. And then it turned into, let's work with each other and grow each other's businesses. And then other things, we offer a discount code for this thing called the Woofie. And it's like the selfie stick for dogs. And it's this little thing that you put on the top of your iPhone, and it holds a treat.
Awesome.
So you can take a picture of your dog.
And it's just, looking at the
and
treat,
I mean, that is something that like I just found scrolling through Instagram and a sponsored ad, and just thought, that's the coolest thing in the world, Yeah. So just reached out to them and was like, hey, I think this is awesome. And we've got this small dog community. I'd love to tell people about it. Can we offer them a discount code? And they're like, yeah, why don't you do an affiliate program with us? And we're like, awesome, cool. So, just pretty organically. If any businesses want to reach out to us, we're always happy to, grow those programs. The one thing I will say is I would never promote anything that I didn't genuinely like or believe in. And I would always be really honest about it. Cause it might be, maybe it's a dog treat that like Shadow doesn't like. That doesn't mean it's a bad dog treat. It's just not for him. So, I mean, that's, different, but
yeah, true. So are you actively searching for new partnerships like that though? Okay.
Always. Yep.
Gotcha. I didn't know if you were just kind of scrolling through like, oh, this seems cool. Let me reach out.
Yeah. As part of so in the next couple of months, we're getting ready our app is a little bit under construction right now. Okay. And we're, just fixing some bugs, adding some things, we're going to be able to say whether so they have a patio, but like one question we kept getting asked in the winter is it a heated patio? Is it a covered patio? And all good questions, so we're getting ready to add that information and to be able to offer that. And then we're launching our Android version, which is something that's been a long time coming. Okay. And so I'm really excited about that.
So right now it's iPhone.
Right now it's iPhone only, but I'd say in the next 90 days, we should have that Android version out. And so as those things are launching, we're also, growing our website. And I mentioned like the shopping site page we're going to have on there. And so once that's launched is when I'm going to start actively reaching out to other businesses to see if they want to do, a cross promotion with us. Gotcha. But I'm waiting until that's actually up and running. So I have something tangible to say, hey, go look at this page, and not just, hey, I promise you this is coming one day. Because that is something that I found. I started promoting the app before it was even launched, and it takes a lot to get people excited about something that they can't go and get right then and there, So, I mean, if you have mastered that, great, promote your business early. But my thing is, okay, wait until it's up there and people have something they can see and then start telling people about it.
Yeah, I haven't said anything about our app at all. I mean, like I've talked about us developing one, but no one publicly really knows what it is, what it's about, what it's going to be. And even once it does launch, I think I'm going to hold off for about 3 months before I even start actively advertising it.
And you have to get the bugs worked out too.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of bugs being worked out, like I said, ours has been in development for like 2 years. And a lot of that is because of me. I've put it on hold so much and all this. So it's not my developer's fault at all. But I do, even now, I feel like once it gets to the point of launching it, it's going to launch with me feeling like, wish we could just tweak that just a little bit, or adjust that just a little bit. And it's not necessarily even being a perfectionist. It's just there's certain things that I know I want to see a certain way. And then there's other things that are imperfect, and I'm fine with putting it out with those imperfections. How was that when you first launched? Did you have to swallow the pill a little bit on certain things, or?
Yes and no. I mean, not too bad, because we had ran through, what the functionality of the app would be and what the look of it would be enough times to where I really did feel like I knew what I would be getting. Yeah. So it wasn't so much things I wanted to change. It was, like I mentioned about the heated or covered patio, stuff that I hadn't even thought of that would be a need for people to want to know that information by looking at our app. So to me, that was more not frustrating, but the user feedback that it's like, oh, you want to go back and change right away, but it's a lot to change one small thing on an app. So
totally. But how are you getting or acquiring user feedback? Is it just reviews in like the App Store or?
Believe it or not, we don't have a ton of reviews. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it's mostly like our community. Instagram ended up being the way that we mostly communicate with our community, which was not something I was prepared for or expected. That's just how it happened. Mm-hmm. And they'll let us know. Nobody is shy about letting us know. Even if they just went to, a burger place that's on the app, but the burger place had a crowded patio and couldn't get them in, people tell us and that's fine. There's only so much we can do about it, but no, people aren't shy about letting you know what good or bad experience and what you have or don't have that they want to see. So
I feel like it's somewhat of a blessing that they're coming to Instagram to say that
it
versus
is.
just leaving a review in the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with any like just pure negativity or negative comments about your app and your business?
There's one funny story that happened where Shadow is a really big mutt. I mean, he's like a lab husky shepherd. Somebody just said he was a dingo, like something dog, And so somebody came to us once saying that we like discriminated and didn't post any mutts. And like Shadow's all over our Instagram. And, the way we do our Instagram feed is we just mostly repost pictures that we've been tagged in, and so it was just sort of It was they did come at us very negatively, but to me, it was honestly just kind of funny because I'm like, I have this monster 90-pound mutt. Like that's I'm absolutely not discriminating against mutts at all. So, I tried to calmly explain that and you just can't win them all. And,
Speaking of doggy discrimination, my dogs got discriminated against on the Beltline of all places.
No.
And I'm like, people on the Beltline are usually pretty dog friendly or accepting of all sorts of dogs. But there was this couple walking with their like, I don't know, probably 3-4-year-old child. And the child from afar saw our dogs and immediately was like, doggies or whatever, the child said. And so we get right even with them and the child comes over and the mom is like, oh yeah, pet them and all that stuff. And then the mom realized that they were pit bulls and she immediately grabbed her child, yanked him back. Was like, oh, those are pit bulls, honey, stay away.
Oh my God.
And my wife and I were like, they were just sitting here like hugging each other.
And this is after the child's already approached the dog.
Petting them. I mean, the child is literally hugging my dog by the neck and all that stuff. And then the mom yanks him away and I was like, pit bulls are fine too. It's all about how you raise them. And I don't know. It's like, maybe she had a very bad experience with a pit bull back in the day, but
no, that's
doggy discrimination is real. It's
I know
real thing.
It is. And that's why, one of the things we check with businesses is that they allow all breeds and all sizes. And obviously, your doggy daycares and, boarding facilities are going to have their own set of rules that most people, know to check beforehand. But, just in terms of a restaurant or a store, that people bring their dogs to, somebody that abuses pit bulls and is a pit bull fighter or something isn't bringing their pit bull to brunch on a Sunday.
Totally.
So, that's not something that I worry. People are only bringing their well-behaved dogs. And at the end of the day, I think it's up to the restaurant if they need to ask somebody to leave and hope that the dog owners are responsible enough to remove their dog if they're acting up. And the irony behind me creating this app is that Shadow is not always well-behaved enough for me to bring him places with me. He's very hit or miss. Sometimes he's the most perfect, well-behaved dog. People come up and give him compliments and he's just sweet as can be. And other times he is just an absolute terror and I don't know what's triggered him. And I just, immediately have to remove him. And, he's a lab mix. And so I'm like,
who knows, right?
I'm sure your pit bulls are better behaved than my lab. So,
well, our foster dog, we just started giving him CBD oil and because he had severe separation anxiety. I mean, he would chew up the door frame when we left like he's got into some of my wife's shoes. Luckily none of my shoes. He would not be around anymore if that was the case. But anyway, all jokes aside, we started giving him CBD oil and it seems to really help. His just anxiety is not there, and if it is there, he has it and then he's like, okay, just let me chill for a second.
Right.
It's like his anxiety doesn't really ramp up and reach this full just destructive mentality. Instead, he's like anxious, but still calmly anxious, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But
that might be something I need to look into.
90-pound dog is a big dog. Our pit bulls, one's like right at 50, the other is like 55, 56. Okay. So I mean, they're a decent size, but they're not the biggest pit bulls at all. But anyway, what's because you mentioned earlier, like some businesses, even though they allow dogs, they don't necessarily want to advertise that they allow dogs. And then there's a lot of businesses that do allow dogs and people just have no idea or would have never even thought. What's one business that you're surprised actually allows dogs that you think most people would not know of?
Oh, shoot. I don't know if I have a good answer for that off the top of my head.
Well, I have one, and that's TJ Maxx. And I don't know if that's every TJ Maxx or not.
No, I think it is. So I haven't added a lot of larger chains to the app because, like I said, we like to verify. And it's very, very hard to get, verification from such a large company.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have heard about TJ Maxx. I know, Walgreens and
really?
Chase Bank.
Wow. Okay.
Both of them. And both of those I have gotten verifications from corporate. And I don't actually know if we've added them on the app yet. One of the things that I'm waiting on adding a lot of those larger chains is until we go nationally. Makes sense. Then, kind of click the button, which it's a lot more than clicking a button, but get all of those national dog-friendly chains on the app. And then we're already kind of in almost every area. And then people can, hopefully the way it worked here in Atlanta is tell us locally about where they go, and then we'll get those places added. Yeah,
because I like right now that it's like you're helping the local community and businesses by essentially not having those big box stores on there in some way. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't hurt that much, but I like that it seems like an Atlanta community-based app. But yeah, I mean, the big box stores are always the one. I mean, obviously like Home Depot and Lowe's, it's a hardware store. They don't care. Elephant could go in there. I doubt they're going to care. But like TJ Maxx or even like Walgreens is very interesting to me.
That Walgreens really surprised me since they do have like a food aisle. But the way I found out was they would put they were doing like pet shots and they would have these signs out front, bring your pet in for a shot. And I'm like, wait, you can bring your dog in? And, then I asked and I got that verification, which is great because Walgreens is walking distance for me. So Shadow and I'll just walk up there and I can pick up a few things and it kills two birds.
Yeah, there you go. What's coming up for, like, how are you going to adjust or move forward with the app? Is there any major things that you think need to change or pivot from, or is it smooth sailing and growing right now? And you're just kind of sticking to that.
Like I said, right now we're sort of under construction.
Yeah.
So getting out of that hole, we kind of had to break the app a little bit before we could fix it and make it better. So it's disappointing. The functionality is still there. You can still see, dog friendly places by you, but some of the features, we had a call to action button and, a map feature, and those just aren't there right now. So getting out of that hole is, goal number one, and then making those improvements, launching the Android version. And then I'd really I ambitiously would like to say in 2019, but I'd really like to start expanding and just say, hey, if you want us in your city, go to the website and submit a dog-friendly business or tag us in the places you go, which is how we've grown in Atlanta. So that way, if somebody says, I downloaded the app and there aren't any places near me, well, tell us a place and we'll get it added, and then tell your friends, and then they'll tell us the places. And then before you know it, bam.
Yeah. So with that said, it seems like a very slow growth app in a new city, right? Because you got to have the app available to download, and then people essentially have to add the information themselves.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd like to add some of those larger chains that are dog friendly, so they won't necessarily have nowhere on the app, but I actually hope, because we have such an awesome following in Atlanta already, that a lot of our local followers would tell their friends in other cities about it. So that would be my hope, hey, I use this app in Atlanta and they're really awesome, and now they're going national, so you can download it and, use it too. And in a perfect world, that's how it would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. How exactly are you using your law degree in the app? I mean, obviously the whole college debate is a huge topic of conversation these days. Is college necessary? Is it not? You're not in law, right? So I guess it's easy for someone to say that's a wasted degree. But law is one of those things that where what you learn from that you can take into almost any industry that you go into.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, when it comes to the PuppyPals app itself, probably not using it that much. But when it comes to, contracts with the developers or, when I was just first starting the business and, I did hire a small business lawyer just to help me with some things, but just being able to read and understand those things myself that, a lot of people, and not to say that it's not overwhelming to me sometimes, it definitely is, but just having that knowledge of before you sign a contract, read it yourself, make sure you understand what you're signing.
Yeah.
And then it really just helps me in all aspects of life. I'm in the process of buying my first home right now. And, same thing, just reading those, understanding everything. Yeah. And I've actually had to go back to the realtor a couple times with, do you realize that I'm giving up this right in 21 days, but this thing won't be done? And then that just kind of, screws me over a little bit. And oh, yeah, right. We should change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So law degree or not, my advice would be always read everything before you sign it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's my wife and I, when we were going through buying our condo, it was the same thing. I was like, they expect so many people just to get the stack of papers and sign on the dotted line.
Exactly.
And this is the most expensive purchase we're probably ever going to make in our lives.
Yes.
I'm not just opening this binder and going to the back of the page and signing on the dotted line. That's crazy. All right. Well, I feel like we covered a lot of ground. We've been talking for almost an hour, I think. I don't think that clock's exactly right. No, it's not. Sorry.
That's okay.
But what's one thing you would add or give the one tip if you could tell yourself back in 2016 when you were just starting? What's one piece of advice or tip or the thing to look out for, whatever that you would say?
Well, back in 2016, I probably would have said, pump the brakes. Do you have to hire developers right away? Like I said, do a little bit more research, dig into that dog community, understand it better. I created it just from my need, but it would have helped me to do a little bit more research, like I said, to just understand that dog community and what their needs are. But I still have no regrets. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm glad I did it. I also think sometimes if you do too much research, then you can find those competitors and then it can be discouraging. And then you could just kind of be like, okay, well, never mind. I'm not going to do it, or it's already out there or whatever.
Yeah.
So, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But I don't know. I'd say if you're not loving it, you might be doing something wrong because, as we talked about, most of us, still have full-time jobs, if not part-time jobs, if not, 2, 3, 4 other things, and then families and life and, everything. So you got to love what you're doing. And it's going to get discouraging, and find that thing that motivates you to get you out of those, woe is me, should I even keep doing this type of days? Because they will definitely be out there.
Yeah.
And then, as mentioned, your competitors do not have to be your enemies.
Which is huge. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the most important things we've mentioned during this episode is just knowing that, yes, you're going to have competition, but I think we're in 2019 going into 2020, I think we're almost done with the days of invention, if that makes sense. Like, we're not going to see another car get invented.
Right.
We're just going to see better cars. We're going to see electric cars. We may see flying cars in 20 years or whatever. But I think we're close to the end of like the very new raw thing being invented. And with that being said, I think we're in the industry or in a marketplace to where you have to kind of be buddy with your competition a little bit, because the only way the industry as a whole is going to survive is if we help each other make the industry survive. And I just want to say that I think Atlanta is a very good city for being friendly with competition, because even in video production, none of us are really like giving each other a hard time or wanting to tear each other down. It's like there's enough work to go around that we just are supporting each other. And
absolutely.
And there's a video production company down the hall from us, and they've rented our soundstage before.
There you go.
It's all there's always a better outcome with kind of love and kindness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess in the grand scheme of things. All right, where do we find you? Tell us where to download the app and where to find you on Instagram, social media, all that stuff.
Right. So right now we are just in the Apple Store or the App Store. If you search Puppy Pals, one word, it will be the first two that come up. The free version and the premium version. And then we are www.PuppyPalsApp.com. Okay. And on Instagram and Facebook, we are at PuppyPals App.
Awesome. And for anyone who wants to get on there on the website or Instagram, you have a lot of stories underneath that you can look at the partnerships that you have to get discounts on certain things, all things
and
dog,
upcoming
right?
events. Events. We are entering the event season. So there's a lot of great dog-friendly events coming up.
But my favorite thing that you have on there is you can see dogs that are available for adoption. Right?
Yes,
and
we do.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, the reason we started fostering our dog is because, I'm sure you know Lifeline Animal Project. They had like over 500 dogs or something at one time. So I was like, we can take one.
I know. I'm getting ready to move into this townhouse and it has a little backyard. It's not huge, but I'm just like, I feel like I should be a foster parent, but I just know I'd be a foster fail, you know, so. Yeah,
and that's why every time I go in there to get his like prevention medicine, they're like, have you failed yet? And I'm like, not yet, but we're so close. He's such a good dog. There's wait, I got all these. I was going to show you a picture. This is our actual dog. That's not the foster.
Oh, what's his name?
This is Ellie. She's she's 4.5, 5 years old. It went away. But she's the cutest. Anyway, we can talk about dogs. I can do a whole other podcast about dogs. It's anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
So much for having me.
And I wish you the most success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of the Late Night Startup Show. Please excuse me recording this with my cell phone in my home, but I've been traveling a lot. I've been working a lot, so I had to get this episode edited last minute. It's actually 1:08 a.m. and I usually put these up to go live at 6 a.m. This morning. So I'm about to finish it, putting the final touches on, but I just wanted to give you this little outro. Please be sure to leave a review and comment, subscribe, all that good stuff on whatever platform you're listening or watching this episode on. It really helps us get more sponsors and helps us just sustain the podcast and to keep it going and to make it worthwhile on our end as well. Just full transparency. So please leave us a review wherever you're watching or listening on. Also, if you need video production for your company, don't hesitate to give us a call or anyone on my team here at RCR Video a call. We would love to come in, sit down, talk with you, figure out how you can implement video into your company. That doesn't necessarily mean hiring us. Obviously, we would love to provide those services for you, but we know that there are plenty of ways that you, by yourself, as an entrepreneur and business owner, can incorporate video by yourself. So if you want us to come in and figure that out for you, please don't hesitate to give us a call. All right, I'm going to go to bed, get this done now. So have a good night.